Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is the news on NTA International. We're live in Abuja. I'm Ruth Haguele. Let's start with the headlines. Federal Executive Council approves 2.9 billion naira for water and fire service equipment at proposed National Oil and Gas Park. House of Representatives inaugurates 18-member ad hoc committee on COVID-19. Plus, curve of COVID-19 infections rises as global cases top 5 million. The Federal Executive Council has approved 2.9 billion naira for the provision of water and fire service equipment in the National Oil and Gas Park to be sited in Odukbani, Cross River State. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Temipre Silva, announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the Federal Executive Council. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that similar approvals were also secured for the provision of other critical infrastructure in the transportation, works and housing, finance, education, as well as aviation sectors.
It was the 10th meeting of the highest policy decision-making body of the Nigerian government in the year 2020, the second to be held virtually in keeping with the social distancing protocol occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic. The meeting was presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. He was joined by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and some ministers, while others took part in the meeting online from their offices. At the meeting, which lasted more than 2 hours, 6 memoranda on the provision of critical infrastructure were considered and approved. The provision of water and fire service equipment for the National Oil and Gas Park, Odukbani, Cross River State, was one of them.
The Oil and Gas Park scheme is to provide an environment, a corridor, for siting industries that will produce components locally for the oil and gas industry. Of course, these parks will create jobs and also increase local capacity and participation in the oil and gas industry.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, also announced the Council's approval of 724.7 million naira for the construction, equipping and furnishing of the Faculty of Health Sciences in the Plateau State University, Okos.
Honorable Minister of Finance presented a memo for the award of 1,200 units of color printers and desktop computers for human resources management system and accounting management systems across zones and area commands of the Nigeria Custom Services. The sum of the contract was 623,700,000 naira.
That memo, the minister said, was duly approved by the council, so also the 116 million naira augmentation of an existing contract for the construction of 90-meter-long Osiakwa Bridge with a 2-kilometer approach in Anambra State, now to be completed at 1.014 billion naira.
It's important to know that this contract has already attained 87.9% completion. But it was stalled in 2012 after the 90-meter bridge had been constructed. There was huge flooding, which made it impossible for the 2-kilometer approach road to be constructed. The lapse in time and period, like I say, when the project was actually awarded in 2009 till date, has made the contract, rates to be reviewed.
Approval has also been granted for 1.1 billion naira revised estimated cost for the construction as well as upgrading of the electrical system of Boeing 737 full flight simulator building at the Nigerian College of Aviation Technology, Zaria. In the meantime, the Ministry of Transportation has been given the go-ahead for the implementation of its Seafarers Development Program. $454,050 will be expended on the Sea Time Training Initiative by NIMASA, aimed at enhancing the capacity of the Nigerian youth to take over the lucrative jobs available in the maritime sector, hitherto dominated by foreigners. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Let's bring you a global update on COVID-19. Cases of coronavirus globally has topped 5 million. A new grim record, as nearly 200 persons in Nigeria have died from the respiratory disease. Let's join Joyce Sometu for latest developments on the global scene.
Nigeria on Tuesday recorded 226 new cases of COVID-19. With Tuesday's figure, the total tally of infected persons in the country, as reported by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC, has risen to 6,401. A breakdown shows that of the total number, 4,475 cases are still active, 1,734 have recovered, while 192 deaths have been reported. Nigeria has so far tested 38,231 persons since the outbreak was first recorded. Lagos State remains the most affected in the country with 2,755 cases. Other states worst hit are Kano, the Federal Capital Territory, Katsina, Borno, and Bauchi. Numbers by Worldometer as at 6 p.m. indicate that the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus in Africa is now 94,771, while 2,958 deaths have been recorded. A regional representation shows that South Africa records the highest number of cases on the continent with 17,200. While North Africa is following closely as Egypt tops the chart in that region with 14,229. West Africa is a rising hotspot as Nigeria records the highest number of infections in the region. Central Africa has the third highest number on the continent, with Cameroon leading that region with 3,529. And East Africa recording the least number of cases. Globally, data by Johns Hopkins University collated at 6 p.m. reveals that there are 5,023,482 confirmed cases of COVID-19. 325,821 have lost their lives. And that's a global update on COVID-19. Many thanks for watching. I am Joyce Ometu.
Thanks, Joyce. Let's look at the legislature. The House of Representatives is partnering with the executive arm of government to confront the coronavirus pandemic on all fronts. The Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, has inaugurated an 18-member ad hoc committee on COVID-19. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The challenge of overcoming the pandemic makes it a duty for the National Assembly to engage with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila says the role of the committee is to add value by serving as a link between the task force and legislature on the one hand and the Nigerian people on the other.
Citizens, doctors, nurses, and all the health workers on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19 in Nigeria receive the full protection that they deserve and the benefits they have so honorably earned.
Chairman of the House Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19, Representative Haruna Mushilia, says the involvement of all agencies is necessary to sustain all gains spanning post-COVID-19.
We will interact and make sure we do those things that will add value to what is happening.
Terms of reference of the committee include monitoring activities of the PTF and all agencies related to management of the pandemic in the country. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
The Economic, Social and Cultural Council of the African Union is climaxing on its strategic agenda on the fight against COVID-19 through the engagement of professionals to drive its response in Nigeria. This was at the inauguration of subcommittees in Abuja. Let's hear from Adebola Brookslyn Sunday.
Although the African continent is yet to hit the 100,000 mark of people infected with the dreaded coronavirus.
Congratulate all the committees and those.
The Council, in line with its statutes of promoting continuous dialogue between all segments of the African people, inaugurated these subcommittees on resource and contact mobilization, intergovernmental affairs, data gathering, advocacy and campaign.
To assist and complement government effort to further contain COVID-19 pandemic, as well as to come out with suitable policies and framework that will further help the government to revive its economy.
We need to critically look at each and every medication that is coming into this country, the role of the customs, the regulation, policy, all these things, we need to collaborate with diasporas.
And so reaching out to the grassroots or the rural areas, is going to be the collective effort of all the civil society group, because at that level, it is no one-man affair.
Its solution and remedies provider subcommittee shall also develop an economic strategy to cushion the effects of COVID-19 on Nigeria now and for a post-COVID-19 era. Adebola, Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
And to speak more on the AU Economic, Social and Cultural Council on COVID-19 response is Dr. Daniel Omofoman. He is the chairman of the subcommittee on solution and remedies provider, AU ECOSOC Nigeria COVID-19 response team. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, the inauguration of the subcommittees is born out of the recently launched Situation Room. What new thing will the committees bring on table to enhance the fight against COVID-19?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to commend and thank the effort of the AU ECOSOC and Nigerian rep, Dr. Tunji Ashaolu, for giving us the opportunity to serve and also to make in our contributions. Basically, the subcommittees are to come up with solutions, technology and economic solutions that will complement the efforts of the Presidential Task Force and the government at all levels.
Okay, and your own committee you're heading is Solutions and Remedies Provider. What solution and remedies are you going to provide for Africa?
Very well. We already had started our work already. We had a meeting earlier on today with the CMD, the Chief Medical Director of the Gwagwalada Teaching Hospital, the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. So we're starting with the fact-finding. We're going to do all the necessary need analysis to support what the government is doing in terms of testing and also treatment of COVID-19 across the isolation centers and the treatment centers. Then we're not going to leave out advocacy. We're going to work with the relevant government agencies to do the needed advocacy in terms of preventive measures to ensure that Nigerians and Africans at large are complying with the standard guidelines of the WHO.
Are you also looking at research?
Yeah, research and development is not going to be left out. We're going to work with relevant government agencies like the Tertiary Education Fund, the National University Commission, and a few other research institutes within and outside Nigeria to possibly come up with solutions and medical solutions, or otherwise technological solutions that will help curtail and control the spread of COVID-19.
All right, now one issue that keeps resonating is the post-COVID-19 era. From your opinion, how do you think African countries can boost their economies again?
Yeah, Africa, of course, it's growing at large, and the effort of the member states, the AU Agenda 2063, it's in line with the WHO standard. So as a member state country, Nigeria as a member state country will drive the lead towards compliance and ensuring that the regulatory standards and framework that are in place are adhered to, and also every possible solutions that will ensure that Africans and Nigerians are safe and we're able to control this pandemic will be put in place.
All right, thank you very much. We hope those solutions and remedies come out as soon as possible.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, that was Dr. Daniel Omofoman. He's the chairman of the Subcommittee on Solution and Remedies Provider, AU ECOSOC, Nigeria. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has received 292 evacuees stranded on Tuesday in Saudi Arabia. The Minister, Jeffrey Onyama, on his Twitter handle said the Saudi government transported them to Abuja. A large number of the evacuees, who are nursing mothers and children, have been comfortably settled in hotels under the mandatory 14 days quarantine. Let's take a quick break. We're back shortly, so stay tuned.
Now believe this Koroti. You know if you touch black man. If you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make the cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V&D.
I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give him?
Give me 200. Take your change now.
You don't want your change? My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. They will now wash your hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so it no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Thanks for staying with us. The Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered that all court processes relating to the suit challenging the consideration of the Control of Infectious Diseases Bill 2020 by the House of Representatives be served on the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, through his lawyer. The court gave the order following the inability of the applicant, Dino Melaye, to effect service of process on all respondents. Olabode Arewa reports.
The suit challenging the consideration of the bill was filed by the former Kogi West Senator in the National Assembly, Senator Dino Melaye, on the grounds that some segments of it would infringe on his rights to life and liberty, alleging that some sections of the bill would make it mandatory for him and other Nigerians to take vaccinations. Clerks of the National Assembly and the House of Representatives, the Speaker, the Attorney General of the Federation, as well as the Inspector General of Police, are joined as respondents in the suit. At the resumption of the proceedings, Dino Melaye's counsel, Nkemaloka Mokoro, informed the court that he has complied with the court's order by serving the court processes on the respondents, except the Speaker. Kayode Ajulo, counsel to the Speaker, however, informed the court that the matter cannot proceed without proper service on the respondents. The court thereafter reiterated its earlier order that status quo be maintained in the consideration of the Control of Infectious Diseases Bill by the House of Representatives.
He's a lawyer himself, and I know he will definitely respect the fact that this matter is already before a court, and they will not take any further action in respect of the matter.
One thing so clear is this: there's no court order restraining the House from doing their constitutional function.
The matter has been adjourned to the 1st of June for definite hearing. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
Away from the judiciary, in a bid to reduce the effect of the lockdown occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic, food items worth millions of naira was donated to traditional rulers within the Federal Capital Territory, courtesy Future Assured program of the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari. While presenting the items to beneficiaries through her representative, the First Lady commended the traditional rulers in the country for supporting government all along in the collective fight to defeat COVID-19. Let's hear from State House correspondent Aliyu Kabir.
The First Lady sent in this message during the presentation of food items to the representatives of the traditional rulers cutting across all the area councils within the Federal Capital Territory. While presenting the items comprising bags of rice, sugar, vegetable oil and other essential commodities, the First Lady enjoined them to ensure equity in the distribution of the items to the people at the grassroots. She added that the whole essence of the gesture is to mitigate the effect of the lockdown.
Today is another usual kind gesture by Her Excellency Dr. Mrs. Aisha Muhammadu Buhari being extended to the traditional rulers to also equally support them during this critical period of not only the COVID-19, but of also the Ramadan period.
Responding on behalf of the traditional rulers of the FCT, the owner of Abaji and the chairman Traditional Council of Chiefs of the Federal Capital Territory, Adamu Buba Yunusa, represented by the Talba of Bauchi, Dr. Hassan Sule, expressed appreciation for the gesture, adding that it will go a long way in supporting the people at this critical time.
This wonderful gesture coming from the First Lady, Dr. Aisha Buhari, is coming at the right time. This wonderful gesture will actually go a long way.
The First Lady emphasized the need for Nigerians to continue maintaining social distancing and obey all the guidelines by the authorities in fighting COVID-19. In Abuja, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
Thousands of people have died of coronavirus due to ignorance and negligence to lay down safety and protective measures. To curb the high rate of transmission and save lives, a non-governmental organization, Society Committee Against COVID-19, has launched a community awareness and distribution of palliatives program in Bagalakbe of Abuja. Obiageli Ugoke reports.
They consist of 5 non-governmental organizations who came together as a group to help ameliorate the plight of the people in this era of the coronavirus pandemic. Their first point of call is the Chief's Palace, where they stated their mission.
We are here because there is an emergency, a global emergency across the whole world. What are we going to do together to prevent community transmission of coronavirus?
At the community square, residents of the community were assembled, waiting eagerly for the message on palliatives. With major focus on social distancing, the group rolled out its awareness campaign with messages already translated into local languages.
Coronavirus na America, coronavirus na Nigeria. Saboda haka kowa yayi hattara. America to Spain to Britain to China, hundreds of thousands of people have died, and closer 4 million people in the world has been infected. That is why we are here today to tell you that coronavirus is real.
We need this community awareness, especially for women and their children, because women are the managers of their home.
The event did not end with just sensitizations. Personal protective equipment like face masks and sanitizers, hand-washing buckets and soap, as well as food items were distributed to different households.
I sincerely pray that may the good Lord give you more grace to continue to reach out to the less privileged of.
Overwhelmed by these gestures, some members of the community volunteered as flag bearers of so-called COVID to sustain sensitization within the community on a daily basis.
It's necessary because we want to curtail the spread of this virus from the community back to the town.
Society Committee Against COVID-19 has mapped out plans to extend its program to other communities in Nigeria. Obiageli Ugoke, NTA News.
Following on ending inquiries on the status of essential workers in respect of the due enforcement of the national curfew and interstate movement restriction orders placed by the federal government, it has become necessary to clear all ambiguity on the position of the Nigeria Police Force, especially as it relates to persons on essential duties. A statement signed by the Force Public Relations Officer, DCP Frank Mba, indicates that it is not oblivious of the sensitive, indispensable, patriotic and frontline role of the nation's workforce that falls within the category of essential service providers, particularly as it relates to efforts to curtail and contain the COVID-19. To this effect, all essential workers, including medical personnel, ambulance service providers, journalists, firefighters, etc., remain exempted from the movement restriction orders as well as the national curfew. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the renewal of the appointments of executive directors of the Nigerian Television Authority. In a letter signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, President Buhari renewed the appointments as executive directors of the NTA for a second and final term of 3 years. They are Executive Director News, Muhammad Labo, Executive Director Programs, Wale Koka, Executive Director Engineering, Steve Moses Okpanachi, and Executive Director Marketing, Abdullah Hamid Salihu Dambos. Others are Executive Director Administration and Training, Dr. Steve Egbo, and Executive Director Finance, Mrs. Fatima Badda. President Buhari has also resuscitated the position of Executive Director of Special Duties with the appointment of Malam Lawal Umar Lalu. Malam Lalu retired as Director of Programs in the NTA. The appointments are in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Nigerian Television Authority Establishment Act of 1977. The appointments take effect from 1st April 2020. The sting of a bee could be really painful and discomforting. Do you know, however, that the painful sting produces a venom containing properties that are not only highly medicinal but cost a fortune? To highlight the wide range of ecological importance of this insect, the world is commemorating Bee Day with a focus on its sustenance. Let's hear from Onenge Fineface.
Imagine a world without honey. Imagine a world without crops. The outcome? A sour, tasteless and starving world. As small an insect as the bee, it is a critical component of the Earth's biodiversity, but it is threatened by man's destructive tendencies. They pollinate crops, provide food for man, cure sicknesses and contribute beeswax for cosmetic, pharmaceutical and other industrial products.
In the ecosystem diversity, you have a food chain. The bee is part and parcel of that food chain. Once the bee is missing in that food chain, something of course will go wrong.
The sting of the bee venom contains two properties, melittin and histamine. The melittin has been found to attenuate cancer and HIV cells. So you would find 1 gram of just that bee venom to cost to as high as about $100 to $180 per gram.
The bee population continues to shrink from habitat loss, bush burning and climate change, propelling the commemoration of World Bee Day with the theme, Save the Bees.
There's a discriminate use and abuse of insecticides globally, and this causes the bees to die. What we are saying is that save the bees, first of all, by not using insecticides as much as you can. 2, by not endangering their habitat, that is, no bush burning, and then 3, by planting flower gardens.
World Bee Day was set aside by the United Nations in 2017 and celebrated for the first time in May 20, 2018. In Abuja, Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
Now we know bees are more valuable than we can imagine. That's the news. Thanks for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.
Did you set a time frame with which some of these things are to take place, and how enthusiastic are the operators in implementing some of these ideas?
We sure did. We said before the next conference they should come out with the